Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, drunk and weary, over many a quaint and curious bottle from my forgotten store, while I farted, nearly sharting, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my toilet door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my toilet door. "Go away," and nothing more. When it comes to showrunners that consistently deliver the goods, it's hard to think of anyone more capable than Mike Flanagan, the purveyor of all things that go bump in the nights. The Haunting of Hill House was a great example of a classic ghost story, complete with plenty of jump scares and spooky goings-on, but beneath the surface there was a much more complex story about coping with family trauma, guilt, loss and redemption. It was an instant hit on Netflix, and it set the tone for each subsequent installment of his ongoing anthology series, using well-worn horror tropes as a backdrop to explore deeper ideas like the nature of love and self-sacrifice, religious faith and conflict, or people forced to face their own mortality. So I was pretty eager to get into his latest installment, The Fall of the House of Usher, a modern interpretation, and I'm using that word pretty loosely here, of Edgar Allan Poe's short story of the same name, with elements from a bunch of his other most famous works and poems incorporated into the narrative. It's a pretty hefty subject matter to take on, especially trying to port it into a modern setting without losing the atmosphere of dark gothic horror that made Poe's work so compelling in the first place, but damn, Flanigan really nailed it with this one, delivering what may be his most complex and interesting story yet. The narrative is told, quite literally, by Roderick Usher, the aging patriarch of the wealthy and massively successful Usher family. Roderick and his family have been accused of countless misdeeds and shady practices over the years, but no matter how much evidence is stacked against them by US Attorney Auguste Dupin, none of the charges ever seem to stick, partly because of Roderick's ruthlessly efficient legal fixer Arthur Pym, who helps make sure that key witnesses and damning evidence conveniently disappear. But could there be more to it? Could there be some other explanation for the almost supernatural good luck that the Ushers have enjoyed for decades? Well, whatever that luck was, it seems to have well and truly run out now. All 6 of Roderick's children have died under gruesome and suspicious circumstances over the past couple of weeks. His company's in turmoil and his public image is ruined. Now a broken man, he invites his old enemy Dupin to his abandoned childhood home on a dark and stormy night, with the promise that he'll reveal everything to the man if he's willing to just sit there and listen to the story from beginning to end. And wow, what a story it is! Their late night conversation acts as a framing device for the real meat of the show, which splits off into 2 main threads, one covering the early life of Roderick and his sister Madeline, their attempts to climb the ladder at Fortunato, and the literal deal with the devil that eventually seals their rise to power and success. The other sheds light on the deaths of each of his children, usually as some kind of poetic justice for the shitty people they've become. There's the hedonist, obsessed with the pleasures of the flesh, who ends up losing all of his, the unethical doctor driven mad by her own creation, the vain and arrogant businesswoman taunted by the reflection of her own failure, or the abusive heir to the empire who just has to split. But what's really behind all of these brutal deaths? Who's the mysterious woman that keeps showing up right before disaster strikes? Why does Roderick keep staring at a brick wall in the basement of his building? And how is it all tied into a sinister conversation in a bar on New Year's Eve 4 decades earlier? The answers may surprise you. Now, there was always going to be pushback for a show like House of Usher that I could best describe as loosely inspired by the works of Edgar Allan Poe, rather than trying to be any kind of faithful adaptation. And weirdly, I'm actually okay with it.
Are you serious?
But drinker, you with the eyes that have the seeming of a demon that is scheming, I hear you say, have you not railed against the violation of the lore? Only this and nothing more? Yes, I have, grim and ghastly bird of yore, and normally I'd be the first one to pitch a fit at another clumsy attempt to twist and warp the achievements of greater minds to suit the whims and feed the egos of some shitty modern writer, but House of Usher is one of those rare examples where I can rest easy and say, yeah, they did a pretty good job with this one actually. The show isn't a faithful adaptation of any specific Poe story, not even its namesake, because it isn't trying to be. What it does instead is pick and choose the best elements from multiple stories and poems to capture the vital essence of Poe's work. The gothic horror undertones, the dark romanticism of lost love and failed potential, the lengthy ruminations on death, loss, fate and guilt. Not exactly cheerful stuff, but what the fuck do you expect from the guy who made Midnight Mass? Anyway, the result of taking all of these diverse characters and ideas and fusing them together into a modern day story about greed, ambition, secrets, lies, and corporate corruption is a narrative that has to do an awful lot of work very quickly and efficiently. And it's a testament to Flanagan's writing that House of Usher almost never falters in its execution. Every scene and piece of dialogue feels significant somehow. Every exchange tells you a little more about the people involved and what's happening to them. Every seemingly trivial event that strikes you as slightly off can end up having massive repercussions later. It's a show that absolutely rewards careful viewing, that encourages you to question everything you see and hear, and that never treats its own audience as idiots that need to be spoon-fed. And that alone makes it pretty rare in today's market. And I have to give credit to the actors on this one. They all do a fantastic job elevating the already solid material they're given, especially when a lot of them are playing against type. The Haunting series tends to use a cast of core actors playing different characters every season, and what's impressive is that you totally buy into them in each new role. Henry Thomas is brilliantly unhinged as the coke-snorting, sadistic Frederick, who slowly becomes more paranoid and abusive as the series progresses. Carla Gugino has the daunting task of playing multiple different characters throughout the season and pulls each one off perfectly. Mark Hamill turns in a gravelly, understated performance as the family's ruthless attorney, willing to do anything and kill anyone, no questions asked. And I've got to respect the writers on this one. His ultimate resolution is pretty unexpected in a modern story like this, where I honestly expected him to break down and beg for his life, but instead it's totally in keeping with his character. Wait a second, intelligent writing and consistent characterization that sometimes takes the plot in unexpected directions? Imagine that in 2023. These guys are all great, but really it's Bruce Greenwood who really steals the show as Roderick, the CEO of the company and the patriarch of the Usher family, a man of ruthless ambition and formidable intelligence who'll betray anyone and sacrifice anything to get to the top. A man slowly hollowed out by the decades of misdeeds he's perpetuated, haunted by the good people trampled beneath him, and the slowly dawning realization that his time is coming to an end. Not many actors could pull off a demanding role like this, but Greenwood dominates every scene he's in like he's been playing the character his whole life. And it's especially impressive once you realise he was only brought in halfway through production with zero prep time after Frank Langella was dropped due to accusations. Nice one, Bruce. Ultimately, House of Usher delivered exactly the kind of interesting, thought-provoking horror experience I was looking for, mixed in with just the right amount of gore and jump scares that never outstay their welcome. And if you're a fan of Mike Flanagan's previous work, or you're just looking for a horror show that's actually well written and well acted, then I think you'll get a lot out of this one. Anyway, quoth the drinker, nevermore.